Hello, and welcome to my allotment. Again, it's the 19th of November, 2021. So it's I've been putting the allotment to bed for the winter, and here's a good example. So that there, that was rhubarb a few weeks ago, and all through the summer, and look, it's gone, virtually no trace. Amazing. And then it'll be having a rest, ready to burst into life again in the spring. So yeah, amazing. So the allotment, there's a fair amount of stuff growing, and I'll have a wander around and see what's going on. So first of all, so I've got my compost heap, and I've had lots of stuff I've been composting. Been put all sorts. This was jam-packed full a week ago, and it's already rotting down quite a lot. And as I am reminded on my horticulture course, I will need to keep mixing this up and taking it out, and mixing it all about so I can get a good composting. But it's already looking quite good. There's some pesky critter is obviously in there somewhere, so I'll have to be careful when I do get it all out, that I don't harm any little creatures. There could be something down there as well. So yeah, so that's good. So that's it's not really, I wouldn't describe it as hot composting. There isn't enough material, so it's quite slow, cold composting, but it does the job. So that's the compost heap, and then straight onto here. So that the brassica cage. So we can see, so that the sprouts, the leaves are starting to go yellow, which I think is pretty normal at this time of year, because you can see, if I try and zoom in, you can see there's some lovely sprouts in there, ready, nearly ready, lovely small ones. So the leaves, so I'll probably take those yellow leaves off, because I think they've done their bit. They've been around for most of the year, and then the sprouts will be ready very soon. Similar with kale. So here, the cavallonero, it's a lovely plant. There's the top, so I'll be using the top leaves in soups and all sorts of stuff over the next few weeks. It's looking really good. There's some yellow leaves, the older ones, which again I'll take off, and then I've got some. This is my purple sprouting broccoli, which has done brilliantly. I mean, the proof will be in the pudding to see if I actually get anything from the thing, but at the moment it's looking very leafy and very good. It's being constrained by my netting, a bit like the Incredible Hulk. Lou Ferrigno, in his little t-shirt, when he suddenly became the Hulk, he burst out of his t-shirt, and really that's what the purple sprouting broccoli is looking to do, but I don't think it can, not with my construction of caging. And then I've got a few nice little cabbages in there too, little Savoy cabbages, so they look pretty good. So I'll probably start on those quite soon as well. So yeah, so all in all, the cage of cabbagey things has been a triumph, I would say, this year. Well, for me anyway. So that, and then look, I mean, this is then beautiful. So I had a delivery of manure from my manure source, the local farmer, and this last year there'd been a shortage of straw in the pandemic, apparently, so he had sort of wood shavings was the stuff that he used rather than straw. And well, you can see, I mean, just look how lovely it is. It's got a bit of all sorts in there, but it's lovely texture. So all of the beds, including in amongst the brassicas, have got a mulch of very well rotted cow manure. So that's like a duvet of joy for them for the winter, and they will protect the soil from too much rain, and also the worms will take it down, so it'll improve the soil structure and the texture, and just it's generally a lovely thing to have on the surface of your soil. You can have, of course, green manure to protect protect the soil over the winter, which is stays there and protects the structure and looks after it, and then you dig it in the spring. But I've always preferred this manure, because green manure, I tend to mess it up. It either doesn't germinate or it germinates too quickly, and I get into right kerfuffle. So yeah, so that's the top dressing of lovely mulchiness. Look here, I've just seen I've got a couple of fungi. Now, I am about as far away as being a fungus expert as is possible, so I always got ink caps. Could be some sort of type of ink cap, Caprinus, but I think I'm miles away on that. So, and then over here, so the broad beans. So they were joyous this year, and look at this construction of comedy from a broad bean. So I sowed them when a little bit earlier than previous years, thinking winter was coming. And well, winter is still not here, so they're growing as if it's flipping spring. So because of that, I've tried to put a bit of support. Normally I don't put any supports on the overwintering ones until, I don't know, March, when they start growing again. But I thought, well, in case it gets cold and wintry and snowy, I'll try and at least keep them upright. So they're there, and then the cagey, caney, crossy thingy is because when I sowed the broad beans in the spring, some pesky, I don't know what it was, I'm thinking it was birds, it might have been mice, but all the shoots when they were just above the soil, they just bit them all off, and they were lying there like laughing at me, just the tops of broad beans. So I thought, well, I'll confuse whoever it was, assuming it was birds, and this is my my genius construction, so they can't get in from the sides, is the thinking, and they won't come in and fly down when the cane's there, because it's too risky, and their wings and everything. So therefore, so far it's working. So yeah, so hopefully that'll be okay. Then another bed of joy with my late flowering cosmos in the middle. This seeded itself, started to grow, didn't flower at all until about October, then went bonkers, and then got hit by frost, and that was the end of that. So that was all a bit strange. Then over here I've got my garlic. So I haven't grown garlic for a couple of years because I've got white rot on my plot somehow. So what I've done this time is I've put a layer of cardboard above the soil, and then all sorts of compost and manure and mulchy stuff on the top, and planted into that. And the hope is, because white rot affects all alliums, when the roots make contact with the white rot, which is a fungi that sits dormant in the soil waiting for allium roots to suddenly make contact with it, as soon as that happens, the fungus bursts into life, starts spreading its spores, and completely rots, whether it's an onion, a shallot, garlic, or whatever. So the trouble is, you don't actually know whether you've defeated it for the year until you harvest them, really. So they're looking good at the moment. I've got about 6 varieties of garlic here, including elephant garlic, so they're in there. And then also I've tried it in containers too. So that one's, nothing's happened so far, apart from some things tried to dig it last night. That one, there's something is happening. There's garlic up, and that one, I don't think there's anything happening in that one either. So yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. It's an experiment. It'd be great if it works, because I do love my own fresh garlic, but the white rot is a bit of a killer. And once you've got it in the soil, it sits around for at least 15 years. So it's once you've got it, you've got it. So hopefully this method might work, and I can try something similar from now on. Then more lovely soil with compost on. Here's the remains of the chard, the ruby chard. So that's been going since about May. Still some leaves there, so I'll finish off those over the next few weeks. But yeah, still beautiful, still a lovely plant. I mean, you can do all sorts of angles. I mean, look at this. Can I ever do that? Isn't that beautiful? All sorts of little angles. If you get the right angle, it looks like it's all flourishing and perfect, and it is, but it's also getting to the end of its time, and once it gets really cold, that might be the end of that, but it's lovely for now. Another bed of joy, just waiting to be planted into in the spring. Absolutely love it. I think I've got, because we have deer on the allotment, muntjac, and it looks like they've been romping around here. I don't know what they've been doing. We did have a bit of a deer gate situation where they went around people's allotments biting all their corn. And the advice given by the allotment association was put socks around the cobs of corn. I didn't try that. Oh look, we've got now these ones. Here's some more fungi coming out of the compost. I reckon that is some sort of ink cap Caprinus, but it's lovely. Look how beautiful it is. Isn't that a beautiful fungus? Really nice. Lovely, lovely. And then all the way along here, so this is my wild part. Wild, well, I say it's for pollinators, so we've got all sorts of different things. I've got some buddleias over there which I've chopped back. I've got the Mexican daisy, Mexican fleabane. I've got mallow there. I've got verbascums. I've got teasels. I've got poached eggplants here. Limnanthes douglasii is there. I've got a clover. I've got some salsify at the back. I've got more buddleia there, and a geranium. All sorts of things, marigolds, and my Echium pininana, which I've mentioned before, but is it still looking good. It's just whether it can get through the cold winter, so fingers crossed, because that would be remarkably exciting if it does and flowers next year. And then Phacelia, the Phacelia plant, which is also used as a green manure, but the bees love. It was supposed to stay over there, but of course, being a plant, it's taken no notice and it's seeded itself over there. So I'll move those seedlings over to where I want them to be before it takes over and get going. So, but that's, yeah, seeded itself. So you can see once you've got some of these plants, you just need the challenge is just to keep control of them, because they'll be seeding themselves all over and coming up ready for next spring. Got some foxgloves in there too. So yes, so that's it. And then that's underneath my hedgerow. I just leave all sorts of branches and cuttings and stuff to encourage wildlife and insects and everything. I'm hoping it's heaving with all sorts of things that are finding place to shelter there, and then can help make the world a better place next year. Then over here, so we've got the end of the raspberries. So the raspberries are finished now. They did really well this year. They're autumn raspberries, and they fruited until it finished about 3 weeks ago. So we had months of raspberries, which was brilliant. Oh, and then here I've got here's some corn marigolds, and you can see there's some seeds. So this is what happens. So you get these. So those are all seeds, and they'll just drop down here, and then they'll survive the winter. They'll wait. They're hardy annuals. So there's a train. When I first started doing these videos, of course the trains were empty. Now they're not. Now they're back to normal, which is joyous. So yes, so these are hardy annuals. So the seeds will survive the winter, and then when it gets warmer again in the spring, off they'll go. So look, all these seeds. It's no wonder you get lots of plants, isn't that? It's free seeds. I've just remembered I did promise my fellow students on my horticulture course to take some of these seeds in, and I've had them sitting in my bag for weeks, so I must take them in and share them out. But what I'll do for now, I'll do some very technical seed sowing. You need to be an expert and a student of horticulture to do this. There we go, brilliant. That'll do. Then I'm going to hop over to the pond, which is looking really healthy and happy. It's happy because of the rain. It's got all sorts of stuff in there, I'm hoping. So with a bit of luck, we'll get some frog spawn in the spring. And this is my hibernaculum. Well, I'm calling it that anyway. It's just a load of logs with all sorts of cuttings and stuff on the top. That's again another place for creatures to hibernate or get through the winter. Some of the logs have got some fungi on. I don't know if you can see over there. Yeah, some fungi there. Might be turkey tail. I don't know. This is quite old, but I'm not sure. So there's all sorts of things rotting down and providing habitat there. Then I come round. There's more soil. There's an attempted pumpkin. I'm giving it as long as I could to see if it ripened, that particular one. It's not going to, and the slugs are eating it, so it's had it really. There is perpetual spinach. So look how green that is, and that stays like that. It will stop sending up new leaves when it gets cold, but that will provide us with greens all through the winter, really. Will keep coming, and is a lovely thing to have. Really, really recommended. You sow it in about, I don't know, April, May, something like that, and it will still be going till next April, May. When it gets a bit warmer, then when it gets going, it'll set seed and it'll send up spikes of seed. But until then, you get pretty much, well, probably 8 or 9 months of spinach from it, which is fab. And then over here, this is, oh well, there's my bench. Look, there's my bench, which I've now been practicing sitting on, contemplating things. It's a lovely little bench, isn't it? And I've got forget-me-nots underneath it, and then I've got my wild hedgerow planted against the fence. So I've put that in March, April time this year, and they've all survived the year. So now, once they've had 1 year really of getting through it, I'll chop the tops off, cut it back because I want it to be quite a bushy hedge. I want it to be bushy all the way down, and but it's done well. It's survived, and from now on it should be fairly easy going with that. And again, I've got herbs. I've got foxgloves, digitalis. I've got Echium vulgare, Viper's bugloss. There, I've got all sorts of lovely things for pollinators, and I have got another fungus here, which is which I do know that. Here we go. So that is candle snuff fungus. Quite amazing. So it grows on dead logs. So there's an old log under there. So that's good. And then over here, this is my, well, I don't really cultivate it, I just let it go wild. It's brambles, it's wild roses, it's ivy. It's really, really good food and shelter for all sorts of creatures, particularly birds, well, all sorts of insects. I did see I think a little field mouse or something in there the other day, but it was so quick I didn't really see very much of it. But that's a really nice habitat there. So me and my neighbour don't ever touch that, apart from just keep it under a bit of control so it doesn't take over the allotment. But really good habitat for creatures. And then over here we've got the remains of the flatleaf parsley. So it's trying to go to seed. You can see that it's trying to go to seed, but there's still a lot of nice parsleyness there. So we can keep using that. The strawberry beds, so I've mulched in amongst them. And it's quite funny. So I've got one variety you can see there, which is massive. The leaves. These were both planted the same year, and the other one, which is a lot more delicate, much smaller. So at least it's easy to tell the difference between the two varieties. And then over there we've got some rocket. So there's quite a lot of things still going that we can use over the winter. This was the bed that's the poached eggplants, limnanthes again. And look, I mean, they're lovely leaves. So these in May, June will all be white flowers with a yellow middle bit that the bees will be falling over themselves to get into. And they just seed themselves every year, so I just leave them there. Really, really lovely. And then into the greenhouse, I've got myself a rosemary there. I am the world's worst grower of rosemary. Every time I ever plant rosemary, which is a very simple thing you do, put it in a sunny position, poor soil, lots of drainage, gravel and all sorts of it. It's very, I mean, you can't get much simpler. Don't water it once it's established, and yet I seem to manage to kill them all. So this is another attempt. It's in a sunny position, it's got good drainage, nothing can possibly go wrong, and I can brush against it and get a rosemary fragrance every time I go into the greenhouse is the plan. And then into the greenhouse, so it's because it's been so warm, I've still got my chilies still growing really, really happily. Over here there's I'm not sure if that's a chili. I think that might be sweet pepper, which doesn't do very much. And here are the pumpkins for the year. I've had a couple of them. I had one of them, so a small harvest this year, but very lovely. I mean, look at those, lovely. That one's called Crown Prince. It's got orange flesh. And yeah, I mean, lovely, but only a few this year. It wasn't such a good year because it was so cool, April and May. I was late going, and then we've got some more chilies growing over here as well, and then another variety over there. They've still got, these are still the ones with the ridiculous names, but I've put a mulch on the greenhouse as well, because I planted cucumbers and, well, obviously chilies and tomatoes in here, so I wanted to put some goodness back into the soil. So I've got a mulch in, I've watered it, so that'll hopefully the worms will get to action on that as well. That's a salvia that I got, that I've just put in here because I'm not sure it's totally hardy. And then we've got some dill flowers and seeds here as well, which are very pretty, if nothing else. So that's I've somehow managed to waffle for the same amount of time as I normally spend waffling around my allotment, even though it's 80% bare soil. So that's a remarkable achievement, isn't it? So yeah, so there it is. So it's all ready for the winter, really. Nothing else is going to be planted until spring. Yeah, unless something awful happens to the broad beans, I might put some more in later on. But I think for now, that's the allotment ready for the winter, and then ready for the spring after that. Already can't wait. Once the soil is ready like this, it's just holding back until spring when we can start planting again. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed that update, and I'll see you soon. Bye.